All right. So it is so true that there is no need for anyone in this world to walk alone, that we can take each other's hands and reach out and grasp other people's hands and bring them along, because truly we do flourish together. So I think when we look at our principles, the main principle that this theme relates to is interdependence and the need for interdependence. There are so many things going on in our community right now where we're bringing people together, and people thrive on that. It's so good for all of us. Our order of service today will be top to bottom: opening words, chalice, greet one another, joys and concerns. Kat Ihus is going to be speaking to us specifically about flourishing together, and announcements, and off we go. So, our quote for today: if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Which is so true. For the chalice lighting today, who would like to light the chalice? Okay, whoops, I guess I can't do that. All right, Tom, while Tom lights the chalice, we can repeat these words together. We dedicate the lighting of our chalice today in honor of the hands of our fathers, for all the ways they guide us, the burdens they carry, and the hard work that they do to show us we are loved. We give thanks. Thanks, Tom. Greet one another. You guys all know each other, but take a couple seconds to say Happy Father's Day and welcome. Happy Father's Day, Jonathan. Pretty. All right, now is a time that we share our joys and concerns. And I can start. I've got so many joys to share. I'd say my first joy I would share is a note of gratitude to my fabulous husband for all the beautiful work he's done out here on the landscaping. It is really looking good out back, and that's nice. Second joy is that our daughter is moving back to the Midwest. She's lived in Manhattan for a long time, since 2009, and she's moving into a condo in downtown Minneapolis with her husband, and they're expecting a child. So that's super exciting. Don't put it on Facebook, though. She's worried about the whole world finding out. So anyway, but lots of joys.
I have a joy in that I got to watch my 10-year-old grandson perform in 101 Dalmatians play yesterday, and it was terrific. He was terrific.
So Thursday, my son and I put on the live stream of the Obama Presidential Library being opened. We got really close to figuring out how to clap. We were almost there. But just the joy of watching all these people celebrate it and seeing what that center is going to be for the community in Chicago, and just, seeing people give speeches with coherent sentences was just really great to watch. And it felt like really unifying as a country to watch it, and it was just really inspiring. Hope to go there one day. Probably wait a little bit for the hype to die down, but that'd be exciting.
Wendy and I watched on Zoom our middle son, Caleb, being sworn in as a court commissioner in Washington State. That's sort of like an assistant judge. So they put a robe on him and said nice things about him, and it was just very, very prideful.
Speaking of prideful, Mayor Allison Page and her celebration of pride for River Falls makes me prideful. David Page and all his work around the UU community makes me really prideful. And Kat Ihus being part of this community also makes me really prideful.
All right, anyone else? Otherwise, we will put one last rock in for all the joys and concerns that go unspoken this morning. All right, when we think about our community, we think that there are many, many, many ways that we flourish together that we probably don't even recognize every day. One I didn't put on the list was the farmers markets. Oh my gosh, so beautiful, so beautiful. And yesterday morning, the regional Pride Fest that was held up in Hudson, absolutely beautiful event, bringing people together from all over, from Minnesota, from the whole western Wisconsin region. Pretty, but in our day-to-day life, we flourish together in our spiritual organizations, our schools, our community, whether it's your geographic location or your social affinity groups, service organizations, families. Most of the time we flourish together. Friendships, travel and adventure groups, even exercise groups. I was at coffee downtown on Friday morning, and here was a whole crew of women who had just been at Curves working out, and then they came for coffee. So all these different ways in which we flourish together. But there are other ways that we flourish together, and sometimes it's very specific, that you come together and you build strength and you flourish together around a specific idea or issue or concern. And we are fortunate in our presence to have Kat Ihus as a member of our organization. Kate was the administrator for the Kinnick. Well, I'm going to have you introduce yourself, Kate. But Kate has been a leader in rehabilitation services for people who struggle with addiction. And she is so knowledgeable on the topic, and today she's going to talk to us about how that process really encourages people to heal and to flourish together. So come on up, Kate.
All right. Well, I appreciate the chance to share with you a little bit about my background and my journey. Most of you, as Allison said, know that I spent the greater part of my career working with adolescents, women, men, and families, addressing addiction and mental health concerns. I have, just as frame of reference, 3 licenses in the area of addiction recovery, and I'm also a mental health therapist as well. And so in the spirit of our theme, Flourishing Together, I want to share with you how groups are a particularly wonderful way to flourish together. For centuries, we have supported each other by meeting in groups, sharing information and resources. The structure of group settings is meant to remove isolation and to gather mutual support. Being connected to others in a way that enriches lives and helps build community. Groups help individuals share their stories and offer hope, compassion, respect, and love to other members. It's in the sharing that connection is formed. In group settings, we look around and trust that there is a spirit at work within the group, much like this group. There is power in a group.
whether it's a treatment group or in any other group setting. A group or gathering is something we can participate in, and that sense of power is shared. Our group models flourishing together at UU. The experience is one of the sense of fulfillment. Groups are about relationships that nourish our soul. For this presentation, we're not exploring the negative outcome of various groups. We can witness some of the deplorable things that can happen by belonging to certain kinds of groups. We only have to look at the nation. Generally, we find satisfaction, pleasure, effectiveness, and a sense of worth if we can experience activities as arriving from and leading back into a sense of connection with others. These group relationships help us to heal and change. They help us to do the inner work to develop an authentic relationship with ourselves that is necessary to make healthy connections to the outer world. They help develop our capacity for authentic and intense relationships with ourselves and others. We are who we are in relation to other people, our partners, our children, employers, co-workers, neighbors, friends, and families. All of these connections give us a sense of self-worth. Under the best circumstances, we prosper and grow as a result of our meaningful connections with other human beings, thus flourishing together. We never know how important it is to others that we recognize them, we join with them, we show that we care about them, and that we'll walk alongside of them. So flourishing together is something we need to think about often and show others by participation how that all works together. Oh, thank you.
Okay, so questions for Kate. I'd like to, go ahead, Nancy.
So what schooling did you do, and can you tell us again what those credentials are that you received?
Sure. So I went through a school based on addiction studies and then did my master's on addiction as well as mental health theories and application, I guess I'll say, to the field of addiction. They are so married to each other, that process of addiction and a struggle sometimes with our mental health. And so we have to kind of look at those things together. For years in the field, they were separate. You didn't link them at all. I'm old enough to remember that. But over the years, we learned about that connection and how important it was. So it felt really important to me personally and professionally to learn all I could about the different kinds of mental health disorders there are, all the different ways in which people become and stay addicted to substances, and then just to marry those together. Did that answer that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
And maybe, Kate, could you say a little bit more about the organization that you led for so many years and what kind of services that organization provides in the community? I know after you retired, there's a new, is it an executive director? Mm-hmm. Executive director who's looking at new ideas for the organization. But I bet there's a lot of us who don't really know this very nice organization that's tucked behind the university and that it has existed here.
Yes, thank you. Actually, it's existed for over 50 years. We celebrated that, I think, 3 years ago now.
It's Kinnick.
Kinnick Falls. It used to be Inc. They dropped the Inc. recently. But it is typically a 90 days, sometimes longer, sometimes a little less, where in this case, it's men only, unfortunately, that are able to utilize those services. And these guys are from all walks of life, mostly from Minnesota, because Wisconsin isn't as forward-thinking as Minnesota as it relates to the need for addressing addiction. It's getting better. There are now some ways in which Kinnick Falls is able to bring in people under Badger care to receive the services there, which is heartwarming. So the guys come, and they're all amazing men. I want you to know that. They're good people who have come to struggle with something that really took over their lives and destroyed so many relationships. And so they come usually from another major, what we call a primary treatment center, and they're referred to Kinnick Falls. I still say us. And they receive really good quality treatment. A lot of it is done in group settings because it is in the coming together of their shared stories, similar and different, that help them to grab onto hope that they too can find a more meaningful life. Sometimes it's by the therapy process or the treatment process itself, and sometimes it's necessary to dig into a deeper level of therapy to address what might be lingering behind them and causing them some concerns. Again, they're delightful guys. They generally work hard. We still have an occasional stinker in the group that we have to contend with, but it's not a problem. We just show them love and respect and help them change some of the ways in which they relate to the world. I have such hope for that organization. The lady that has replaced my position there is very talented and is extremely motivated to help Kinnick Falls grow and move into the future and be around for a long time. And I'm on the board and trying to influence some of the direction in which the program grows and to applaud the progress that's being made. They have a tremendously talented staff who I feel really privileged to have been able to bring on board. They've had lots of training. They've gone through, some of them, their own personal journeys into recovery, and they become then really authentic with the guys who are thinking, I can never get my stuff together. And they can look at some of the staff and say, well, I guess I could if they can. So it was really important to me that we brought on board people who had lived experience around how to address issues, both mental health. Mental health is extremely important in the process. And we did have staff on board that are licensed in the area of mental health, but we also provided transportation over to the cities so that people could maybe connect with their very own therapists or have those connections once they left the treatment setting so that help could follow them and it not be a one and done kind of thing. So it's an amazing place. It's a nonprofit. We're always trying to, kind of raise money to help improve the services that are offered. So if you're interested in what they're all about at a deeper level, please check them out on Facebook or LinkedIn or wherever you kind of do your exploring. They are well worth knowing about and promoting. So, thank you.
Other questions for Kate? I think when she was speaking about the why is the Kinnick Falls facility filled with men from Minnesota is Minnesota Badger Care, or Minnesota Medicaid covers these kinds of service, these post-inpatient residential treatment centers, and Minnesota will pay for that. Wisconsin will not. Now, I believe they're starting to pay for some ambulatory some services, and that's something we need to work on with our legislators.
It's ironic that Wisconsin is one of the top states with the issue of.
Right. Yeah. And addiction isn't common in Wisconsin. It's basically epidemic. Almost 50% of children in Wisconsin are growing up in a household where one or the other parents struggles with addiction. And unfortunately, many people don't get the help, and that's thus hearkening back to the opening music, is people feel like they're alone. People struggle. They don't recognize that they are sick. It's an illness. Addiction is a disease. It wants to kill you, and it's progressive. And so people who don't get help really struggle. But I was interested, Kate, in when you talk about co-occurring mental health issues, what kinds? Is it mainly depression? Is that the main one?
I would say depression and anxiety are the two most often associated with addiction and mental health issues. But you also see a lot of folks that have unresolved anger issues that come out in kind of, well, in shop talk, it's kind of like the second tier of mental health issues. Those issues are harder to impact and help people recover from. But I think that it's a huge advantage, that's not quite the word I want, but advance in looking at how we can best address the circular pattern of addiction, because that's something else to be considered at Kinnick Falls. The guys that come to us, there's a continuum of addiction from, the very end down here where there's a little bit of trouble, but you're still living your life pretty well and managing to take care of your family, to this other extreme end. And Kinnick Falls falls on that other extreme end. So the guys that come in have been through multiple, often, not always, but multiple treatments. So they know the language, they know the jargon, but somehow what they need has not, they've not experienced yet the ways in which they can impact that. So our job at Kinnick was to help them identify and then challenge them to change. And if you can imagine yourselves having to change everything in your daily lives, including the people you're close to, and having to do, a 180 on all of that and succeed, it's hard work. We take for granted that they're just going to recover because they go through, they learn these steps and they learn this stuff. That's a beginning, but the work is really ahead of them. And I think if there's anything I could share with the public is to really appreciate how hard it is to turn your entire lives around and face that addiction and do something different. It's not an easy thing we ask of them. Does that help?
Yeah, Char.
I was just wondering about abandonment issues.
Oh.
Like, say, a daughter who feels abandoned by her father.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was talking to you about my niece, and I think.
Oh, we should have a microphone, sorry.
I think that's a big part of her issues and just.
Why she's having trouble with addiction.
Yes. That feeling of not being connected, to not feeling worthy of, not feeling like you matter. That's underneath.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting from her. And she does say, "Oh, I don't care that he doesn't." But there have been other things that she has said that were, it absolutely affects her
Sure.
and her addiction problem.
It's how she identifies herself. And without some help to understand that that's about them, but it feels like it's about her.
It definitely does. I can tell that she feels that it's all on her.
Yeah.
And then I had another question too. When people do go through all the steps and do all of the things, what is, like, for lack of better words, the success rate? Like, how many people actually?
Yeah, it depends on who you ask.
Yeah.
Treatment centers are notorious for embellishing their numbers, but I think that the rate is still quite low, and I think that in part it's because we maybe don't understand the best way to help people through it. I did a group on Wednesday with the guys, just asked if I would come in and do some work with them. And what I found interesting was that I asked the guys how many of them had had previous treatment, and I would say all but about 2 people in the room, and there were probably 30 in there, raised their hands. And what they identified is that the reason treatment doesn't work for them is because they're asked to retell their story over and over and over in all of these different settings. And what that does, I mean, I get it. I know why treatment does that, but I think we're missing the fact that it's re-traumatizing, that it creates more of a hole in their sense of self than if we just had them projecting on what the future is going to mean, how they can feel that sense of self-worth versus what's gone wrong. And the treatment field is slow to get it. I'm hoping, as we learn more and more, that treatment will be a different, maybe we won't even call it that. We'll find another way to talk about how people can make changes in their lives.
And then the other thing is, how do you get them to realize they need to go to treatment, or,
Yeah,
because
it's touchy.
it's just so hard, and it's so complicated, and it affects me because I talk to my sister about it all the time because it's her daughter.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
She's been to treatment, and it's been the 28-day thing, and she comes back, and she's in the same environment with the same friends, and it's just
Yeah.
like this vicious circle. She's ended up in prison like 4 times. And
Don't we always do what we've always done? As individuals, we tend to slide back into those very same patterns. And the only way we can impact those patterns is to really take a look at that low self-esteem, that sense of, just not being enough. Having been sort of, it maybe be something like how an orphan feels about not belonging with their group, with their people, that we somehow think, if we don't help people get to the sense of, I belong in this group, and maybe I can hear from them how they've made changes in their life, and I could practice that. I could be ready, though, to fall back, but if I keep plugging forward, I can merge a path that is healthier for myself. Now, how to get them there, I think is really, it's really up to each individual situation. The shaming, you're disappointing us, you're not living up to what you could be. All those messages, again, tend to kind of drive people backwards instead of forwards. So I think you've talked to people, and maybe you need a therapist along with you that asks directly, are you happy? Is your life fulfilling for you? What would make it better? And kind of try to come alongside them where they identify, I probably need some help with this. I can't figure it out on my own. And then maybe, if you're gentle and caring and loving and kind, you're able to bring them along, helping them get somewhere that they're not scared of and worried about. But it's a slow process, and you have to know the people that you're trying to help at a, kind of a deeper level. Not always successful, though.
Another suggestion on that front would be I've helped many people in my work get the help that they need, but also thinking of your sister, suggesting to your sister that she get help, that she get a coach, to coach her through how can she be the best parent possible to this person who's struggling with addiction. And there's lots of good advice out there. There's good counseling out there. The major organizations like Hazelden, if you just cold call them.
The thing with them is they're in a very rural area in North Dakota.
Right.
So it's just, it's really hard. It's really a struggle. And we had just visited, and it's just a struggle.
Yeah, it is a struggle. So they've got some codependence going on. But even your sister can get help and advice and therapy online, and to coach her.
That's what she needs to do.
Mm-hmm.
And even admitting that for her is a little bit hard, but because she just wants to do everything. She's raising her grandsons.
Sure.
And we've taken on one, and we're going to bring another one to our home.
Yeah.
It's just really hard.
Mm-hmm. And then and if you get some coaching, you need leverage in order to, if you want to basically force someone to get the help they need, you have to have some kind of leverage. But anyway, there's lots of good counseling and therapy out there and advice to find. So, other questions for Kate?
Can I add one thing?
Go ahead.
I know a lot of you, if not all of you, have heard about AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. And for a long time, a lot of people were benefited by that approach. But I do hesitate to say, or not hesitate to say, that it's not an end-all be-all, and it's not always something people can wrap their head around, to say that they're powerless, that they don't have any resources to get better. It's kind of a futile message in some ways, but the way it does work is it's a group, and there's a group energy that in telling the stories, people might get to feeling more connected and more optimistic about ways they can.
So they do have an AA. Do you think that would benefit her to go on?
For a sister or for
my sister?
They have something called Al-Anon, which is, again, very similar to the 12 steps, but it's for significant others to attend, which does help, I think, people to understand that, they need to focus on themselves.
Yeah, she's not alone. Her story is incredibly common. In any room you're in, half the people are related or associated with someone who's struggling with the disease of addiction.
Oh, I could go on and on.
Yes.
When it comes to my family, there, there
Yeah.
are so many family members, and it's just.
You know what we say in my family, addiction doesn't run in the family, it gallops. So,
I'm gonna
Which
remember
is
that.
true in many families.
Yeah.
Yes.
yeah, okay. Other questions for Kate?
Well, thanks for your attention.
Have you always had this job? I mean, did you always do that work?
Probably since the mid-'80s,
Oh,
I've done that work, and I'll tell you where my desire to do the work came
Step
from.
up to the mic.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah. Came from living in families where I saw how many people are afflicted by alcoholism in particular. But in my world, not only was there alcoholism, but there was food addictions. There were sex addictions. So it ran the whole gamut, which for me, I felt like, I don't get it. I don't understand this. And one way I could try to figure it out was to go into the studies and try to learn from there. Because the last thing I wanted was to repeat those patterns. I wasn't 100% successful. I had some trial and errors and worked through some addictions of my own. Took a long time, and it was deeply rooted. So Al-Anon wasn't enough, or AA wasn't enough for me. I had to go into therapy. I had to really learn to look at myself and choose myself. And that took a long time. But I'll tell you what, going into the field and having to take MMPI tests and all those things you have to do to find out if you're really okay with the field taught me so much about myself that I never expected, but it was helpful.
Yeah, yeah, and think of probably the hundreds of people, Kate, that you've helped over the years.
Oh, gosh.
Hundreds, thousands, I don't know, a lot of people that you've helped reach a better future and be happier.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah.
That was my goal.
Absolutely. Okay, any other questions for Kate? So lucky, aren't we, to have you in our organization. So thanks so much. Okay, so as we think about flourishing together, we also have a few minutes for dialogue of thinking about times that you in your life have benefited from people feeling the need and the desire to flourish together. Have you benefited? Have you been rescued by kindness? When were you rescued by the kindness of strangers? Was there a time when you learned to say, I hurt, I need help? And finding community. Where did you find community when you least expected it? Do any of these questions resonate with you? Okay, any of these questions resonate a little bit?
And this is really me being vulnerable. I got married when I was 18, and that was in large part because I wanted to be rescued. I had my first baby after, I guess I was 21. And one morning, my little baby, probably, I don't know, less than 9 months old, was crying, screaming. And it made me so anxious, and I couldn't find any way to calm her down. And I lost it. I just lost it. And I picked her up, and I went to the door of her room where her crib was, and I was about to throw her across the room into her crib to get her to stop crying. That's when I knew I needed help to recover from all those years of abandonment issues and not enough and all those things that you start to believe about yourself. And it was then that I did get into a therapy process and learn how to better parent, but also to forgive myself for something that could have been just a dreadful outcome. So that's a story of a journey.
Yeah, unfortunately, there were the resources that you could tap, people that you could reach out to get help. I think sometimes there's so many people who don't feel they have anywhere to turn, thus back to the opening song, that you're not alone. Anybody rescued by the kindness of strangers? It happens all the time. I was driving down I-94 once with our second child, brand new baby. I don't know what I was thinking. Decided I was going to jump in the car with just that one brand new baby, drive to Milwaukee to see some of my college friends. I waited till I was 19 to get married, and then I got rescued by that guy back there, and we had our first child at 21. But I went to Milwaukee, and the car broke down. I-94, being, I don't know what I was, 22 maybe. I just wrapped the baby up in a blanket and started walking down the freeway to go get help. There was no cell phones, nobody. And bam, these men pull over in a truck. They're like, what are you doing? They took me to the next town, got the tow truck, stayed with me. They would not leave there until the gentleman at the repair shop said the car would be fixed and I would be on my way, and they would not leave until I was on my way. They were so kind. And then one of them went and got some dinner, and how's that baby? People are just so nice. And how do we just create that world where this is so common? Yeah. Just what'd you say, Anna?
I said despite Trump and attempts to make us not be good and to be.
Yeah, there's so many forces that are driving us apart in our communities. How do we, on a daily basis, strive to reach out to people, bring people together? Kate, I think your story, and thank you for sharing, is really reflective of a time that you said, I need help. I need help. And that's hard to admit. And then you wonder, when we were raising 5 small children, I used to wonder, how do people not lose it with their children? How do people not? I mean, David and I both grew up in pretty normal, we weren't abused as children or anything. And it's really hard to retain your cool with kids. It's hard. And has there been a time when you found community that you least expected it? Any time you found community when you've least expected it? Yeah, right here. At UUSRF, that's an advertisement. We find community, and you build community. I would say I found great community in running for political office. That, you don't really expect it, but it builds over the years, and all these people you've met, and the doors you've knocked on, and you'll be in a grocery store, and people will say, well, you knocked on my door a few years ago, and you're building relationships and community, and it's not even your intent necessarily to do that, but it really builds, and it builds here too. Nancy?
I found community at the Unitarian Universalist Church in Green Bay when I was a young lawyer and had a new baby. And I kept a journal that year, and when she was about 4 months old, I went to a Unitarian Universalist service, and I noted in my journal that it was a short service because it was a fussy baby. But I felt welcome enough that even having been there with a fussy baby, I felt welcome to come back. And a community that accepts everybody, even babies who are fussy, that's the community I want, and that's why I'm really thankful for this community.
All right. Other ideas here? Things you want to talk about? Hannah?
I always have been to going to UU groups throughout my adult life, and I always expected community. I just headed there. And when I took this job in Flint, Michigan, I looked to see if there was a UU church there, because they thought if there is, then I know I can find friends and community. And community has supported me all my life, different ones, and it's wonderful.
So for us, I think the question then, if we invert it, becomes, how do we create community? How do we create community? It is, as mayor of River Falls, one of my top priorities to build and create community in our region. So we can do that, and it takes just a small group of people, and we can do it here. More to come. All right. So we want to take a special moment today to honor our fathers, the grandfathers, the godfathers, the foster fathers, and all the men who have made a difference in our lives and the lives of our children. They are many, and you don't have to give birth to a baby to parent a baby, of course, as you're finding out. It all matters. It all matters. And I should tell a quick story here. A long time ago, David and I became foster parents, and we had 5 children of our own, and we didn't really need or necessarily want more children under our roof. But I was a nurse at the hospital, and they had put an advertisement up for nurses in particular who would be willing to take a brand new baby that was being placed for adoption. And the idea was you would take the baby when the baby was discharged from the hospital instead of going home with the maternal mother. Baby would come to your house, and then you would take the baby to court and turn the baby over to the adoptive parents a few weeks later, not a long period of time. Well, when I was a nurse at the hospital in my 20s, we had the 5 kids. I thought, well, my kids would love doing that. Take a baby, we'll have a baby for a few weeks, and we'll deliver the baby to the court, and that would be fun. And we could do it. We were a very baby-friendly household. So we signed up to do that. Well, in order to do that, we had to become legally foster parents. And then as it turned out, there were other forces that didn't want to place babies in our home for political reasons. But we were then foster parents. So then we started getting phone calls from the county. Would we take these children? Would we take these children, 3-year-olds, 5-year-olds? And we ended up being anchor foster parents, I'll call it, back and forth to natural mother and back to our house for many reasons, for 2 little boys. They were in and out of our house for a long time. And the one boy, his last visit to our house, he was 12 years old. He was in 5th grade and stayed with us for quite a while, like all school year. And anyway, it turned out parental rights were terminated. And I'll say, it's fair to say, David, that when we were first getting into this, David was a little bit hesitant about this. And I said, all you have to do is just be a normal man. Just not, be a normal man, be a good guy, go to work, come home, help, be nice, be kind, and that's all that's really required here. Well, so these kids were in and out of our house, and life didn't go well for the younger child. But the older child, a couple years ago, walked up our driveway, and our daughter was here visiting, and she said, "Mom, you'll never guess who came up the driveway today." Well, it was Jared. And he lives in South Dakota with his girlfriend and his 14-year-old daughter. And he came to visit. He came back the next day, and he said, I wanted to come and have my daughter meet the family that changed my life. And we didn't think we were doing anything special. When we were doing that, we were, just trying to help how we could. But I think, Kate, you too, in the work you've done, you don't realize the impact you're having until sometimes decades later. And what you guys are living through right now, you're giving those kids normalcy, right? You're creating something that they will have an image of, this is what it's supposed to look like. And that's what we were able to do you can't save everybody, but you can save one at a time. All right. So announcements. On June 28th, that's next Sunday, the building will be open. I'll be here. I'll be out here, and I'll open the building and be doing some work. July 5th, Maureen Ash is going to be doing a service. And then July 12th, building will be open for community. July 19th, we are still working on what the program will be that day. The last 2 weeks in July, I think July 20th, the painters are coming. We're going to, David Page.
Mostly we made that kid wear his glasses. We figured out that he was ditching his glasses every foster home that he got switched to. The first thing that went was his glasses. And we figured that out, and he wore his glasses in our house. But I wanted to share something before we adjourn today. I watched Barack Obama's comments at the opening of the Obama Center. And he was talking about the inscription on the arch, which is, the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. And typically for Obama, he was going to describe where that phrase came from, and that it's often attributed to Martin Luther King. Abraham Lincoln used some things like that. And he described how that was originally from a pulpit in Boston, from an abolitionist minister. And I started to smile. And that minister was Theodore Parker, a Unitarian minister, and one of the founding driving forces, I shouldn't say founding, but perpetuating forces in Unitarian Universalism in America. He couldn't qualify for Harvard when he wanted to get there because he was too young, and he took classes on his own, and he completed a 3-year course in 1 year with self-study and with honors. Oh, like he died in 1860, so he didn't even get to see the Emancipation Proclamation. So it was back when it was, less rigid. But he completed a 3-year course in 1 year, so Obama didn't mention the fact that even though they were both Harvard educated, that Parker kind of kicked his butt. And the guy spoke 5 languages, and he was just a firebrand. And I didn't want any of you to leave here today without knowing that quote on the arch at the Obama Center is from Theodore Parker. The arc of the moral universe, and the Parker sermon is incredible. He goes on to say that I am so short-sighted, I can't see the end of that arc. And it was so eloquent, you should look it up. The arc, what Martin Luther King Jr. used was, the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. And part of Parker's sermon was, it doesn't do that without work. And the Parker thing is wonderful. And that's why people like Lincoln and King used parts of it.
I don't know about you guys, but I think we just found our service for July 19th, and it might be Dr. Page. All right. Okay, and then we're going to be closing up the building the last part of July. We're going to start with painting the ceiling. We're hiring that done. And then we're going to engage our team here in painting the walls. We think we can do that ourselves. Sue Bouchard has some scaffolding. We'll be painting here and in the kitchen and in the SE building, just to freshen things up and get ready for fall. That'll be fun. Oh, what color? Okay, so as it stands right now, Anna, obviously open to discussion, that's a sample wall over there. So that upper half of that wall is actually a different color than what you see around the room. It's called linen. And then it would be the slightly darker beige on the lower half. And that would go around. Jonathan has suggested to us that darker beige would be better up here, so it creates a better background for video. It doesn't reflect so much light. So it'll be neutral. And then in the SE building, we're going to do one wall, the neutral, and then the Jonathan's kids are going to help us pick out some vibrant colors to use in the SE building. Does that sound good to you? Yep. And then when we're all done, we'll get the carpet cleaned and be ready for fall. Good? So thanks so much for being here today, and thanks for your presence as always. We do have some treats. Kate brought some fruit. We have gluten-free brownies that are super good, even though they're gluten-free. And I did not make coffee, but I can. And we'll now stand for our closing words. All right. Okay. Go out into the world in peace. Have courage. Question all things. Hold on to what is good. Return to no person evil for evil. Strengthen the faint-hearted. support the weak, help the suffering, honor all beings. All right. Thanks for being here today.